This is the face of a person who's currently going through the hottest September ever recorded in German history. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry if this video is a bit darker than usual. Everything is currently very overcast and I like to film with natural light, so I hope that I can brighten everything a bit up in editing, but we'll see about that. Anyways, today I want to talk about how you yourself can research German folk magic. I already made a video about book recommendations that I have for German folk magic, but this video is more specifically geared towards online research. I know how hard it can be to research this topic, and especially if you don't speak German, it must be even more taxing, so I hope that this video can give you guys a few ideas on how to conduct your own forms of research. The first thing that I continuously talk about in many of my videos is that Germany is very regional based, and each region kind of has its own flavor of folk magic. And it is kind of important that you learn what branch of folk magic you want to specifically delve into. I know that a lot of you want to specifically research the folk magic that your ancestors might have practiced before immigrating, for example. And one thing that is really important for that is to know where exactly in Germany your ancestors came from. So if we look at a map of Germany, for example, we'll see that it is comprised of multiple different states. It is a federal republic like the United States or Mexico. Actually, I might just shift over here. Yeah, I think that's better. So there are 16 states in total, 3 of which are city-states. And although it may look like it, the borders of these states aren't necessarily drawn with cultural regions in mind. And this is actually a theme that you will see in a lot of European states and regions all throughout history. Like, for example, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Austrians, a West Germanic group, and then the Hungarians, which is a Finno-Ugric group, aren't related at all, have completely different languages and cultures, but they at one point formed a single country. And there are tons of other examples. So if you look at Germany and the individual states, you shouldn't assume that there is one single culture for each state that only exists in that state. What is far more common is that there are multiple different cultural regions within a state that also extend beyond its borders. Also, many of these states have a comparatively young history. For example, the state of Lower Saxony was founded after the Second World War, and North Rhine-Westphalia as well, which just shows that you shouldn't trust state borders as cultural borders. You look at a map and you've identified the area where your ancestors came from. For sake of argument, I'll pick out a town now from Google Maps. And since I'm already more familiar with kind of the northwestern parts of Germany, I'm choosing a town from somewhere here. Let's just, I don't know, zoom more in, get a smaller town. Here. Dingden, near the city of Bocholt. So what can you already deduce from Google Maps? You can see that Dingden is a relatively small town. You can see that there are a lot of fields and heaths all around the city. And oftentimes Google Maps will offer you a direct link to a Wikipedia page that might exist for the region or town that you're looking at. Through that, we can directly go to Wikipedia and have the article for this town/village right here. Unfortunately, you'll also see that a lot of the times these articles are only available in standard German, which if you don't speak German is an additional hurdle, but you can just do copy paste and put everything into Google Translate. The translation won't be 100% accurate, but it will be at least to give you some idea of what the history and culture of the regions that you're looking at are generally about. The name Dingden apparently goes back to the ancient Germanic thing or thing gathering, where many tribes would come together at different times of the year, usually during full or new moons, where they would commune and they would talk about issues of religion, politics and law, etc. You also see that Dingden is only a part of the city of Hammingen, so you can go to that Wikipedia page and get some more general information. The city even has a website where you can maybe get more information, and you can also see that since Hammingen is a bit larger, its Wikipedia entry also is available in English. although you'll see that its entry is comparatively smaller than the German version of the article. So even if a Wikipedia article for a town or village that your ancestors are from is available in English, I would still look at the German version of the article, because usually there are more infos on there that you won't find in the translation. So this will be your first stop in a research from which you branch out. Because you shouldn't just take Wikipedia at face value, of course. You could also use Google Street View to kind of look at what the landscape around Dingden looks like from a first-person perspective. We, especially as witches or folk practitioners, are generally really connected to the land, so getting a feel of what the land looks like can help you connect to that area. Now, the next interesting thing that you could do is look at what dialects or minority languages are spoken in the general area where your family comes from or the area that you're interested in. So you can look up a linguistic map of Germany and try to pinpoint your area of interest. So if you scroll down on the map, you'll see that Dingden is kind of in this area between this orange region and this dark green region. And they are separated by this red line that stretches all across Germany. And this is the Benrath line or the Markenmachen line. And basically north of that line, the language is a bit more archaic, meaning that it did not go through certain vowel shifts and preserved more archaic sounds when compared to south of that line. So for example, the verb to do, which in standard German, which originates south of that line, it's called machen, but north of that line, where things are a bit more archaic, it's called Marken. And in this area, these lines separate the Low Saxon language and Low Franconian dialects. This might sound very complicated, but basically north of the Marken line, there are three main languages spoken: Low Saxon and its dialects, Frisian and its dialects, and the Low Franconian dialects. For example, Dutch is one of them. And in that area, you could already kind of see that the Low Saxon and Low Franconian languages, since they are so close to each other in that specific region, would have some intermixing. However, Dingden would generally be in the Westmünsterländisch area. So let's just take a look at that. Westmünsterländisch. And yes, already as I suspected, Westmünsterländisch Low Saxon already has some similarities with Low Franconian dialects. And you can see that it belongs to the Westphalian dialect branch of Low Saxon. And my dialect, which would be East Westphalian, also belongs to that branch. So people here and in the Western Münsterland would generally know what to say to each other. But before I get angry comments, I should also say that Low Saxon and other minority languages within Germany are kind of dwindling. So if you would come to these places today, you would get by with just speaking standard German. But I think, as someone who speaks a minority language, that keeping that linguistic heritage alive, or at least knowing about it, is also a big step in connecting to your folk magic, to your ancestors, and to the place that you're interested in. Now, this example area that I just showed you is part of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. And you can already see that this name is a bit weird. It has two sections, the North Rhine part and the Westphalia part. And these were actually two separate regions which were smushed together after the Second World War. And while still in the border regions, Dingden still is more in the Westphalia part than in the North Rhine part. So let's do a bit more research when it comes to Westphalia. Here is one really interesting website from the Kommission Alltagskulturforschung für Westfalen, which roughly translates to Commission for Domestic Life or Day-to-Day Life for Westphalia. And the thing that I want to show you guys on here is their archive research that you can do online. So if you go on here for the archive for domestic culture and down here to Archivrecherche, basically archive research, you can search for certain documents that have to do with day-to-day life that this archive preserved, and you can look at them and download them as PDFs. And I already put in Dingden, so let's hit search and see what pops up. So some stuff that has to do with marriage, but this sounds interesting. Lokale Sagen und Erzählung, which is local folk tales. Let's investigate that and download the PDF document. I don't know if you can see the document that I just downloaded. I don't know if it's recording. but it's basically a document written in German in a very hard to read font, all about folk tales from around that area. Now this is where it gets really hard even for people who can read German. Now the writing system which is used here is called 𝔖𝔨𝔢𝔫𝔨𝔶𝔨𝔢𝔫, and you can go online and look up what letter in 𝔖𝔨𝔢𝔫𝔨𝔶𝔨𝔢𝔫 corresponds to what Latin letter, but that might be very tedious work. So at this point I would really consider making contact with someone that speaks German really well and showing them this and try to piece together the information. Not all documents on here are written in that very hard to read font, but since these documents are older, a lot of them are. But this is the fun that you get with researching, I guess. Now another thing that is a bit more accessible and also has to do with Westphalia is this, the Bildarchiv für Westfalen, basically a photo or picture archive for Westphalia. So we can put Dingden in here and see what comes up. Sadly, nothing really interesting, just some nature pics from around the area, which are nice to look at, but maybe not exactly what we are looking for. So let's type in Hamminkeln, the city that Dingden belongs to, and there you can see more impressions from around the area. For example, a bunch of teenagers kicking a fire. This is also maybe not what we are looking for, so let's widen the search even more. Now on our map we can see that Hamminkeln is near the city of Bocholt, Borken and Wesel, which are bigger cities. So let's try that. So I've tried that with Bocholt and already we have 114 results, which is arguably a lot better than for Dingden or Hamminkeln. This kind of looks like it could be related to a local tracht, although I personally have never seen that. And you can try that with many other cities near the area that you're interested in, or you can also search for a topic. For example, if you're interested in the folk clothing that people in Westphalia wear, you can just type in Tracht, which is the German name for folk clothing, and already you have a bunch of people in Tracht here. And I know that these archives are Westphalia specific, but other regions throughout Germany also have similar archives that you can access online, and you just have to search for them. And even if a region does not have such an archive, the state that that region is in most likely does. And here's another thing that I wanted to show you. I already talked about how there are minority languages in Germany, and these are of course attached to minority cultures. 4 in total. We have a Danish minority living in Schleswig, we have the Frisians, we have the German Sinti and Roma, and we have the Lusatian Sorbs. And a 5th group would be the speakers of the Low Saxon language, although they have a different website since they are not technically an ethnic minority. And through this website called Minderheitensekretariat, you can learn more about each of these cultures. So as an example, let's look at the Lusatian Sorbs. And on this website that's thankfully also available in English, you'll see a rundown of their history, of their struggles, and more links to other websites that are relevant to them. So if you're part of one of these minorities or interested in them, this website is really gold. And the website that I talked about for the speakers of the minority language Low Saxon is the Niederdeutsch Sekretariat, and sadly it's only available in German with some Low Saxon words thrown in. So again, if you don't speak German, you only can resort to asking someone that speaks German or using Google Translate to get the information out of this website. You'll probably notice that none of these tips that I just gave you are overtly witchcraft related. They are more cultural, but as folk practitioners, this is the main area in which we work and the main thing that we try to research. So I thought that giving more cultural information would also be relevant to this. So I hope this example of how to research German folk magic was generally helpful to you and at least gave you some ideas on where to start or how to start. And with that we come to my Patreon shoutouts. So shout out to Crab Apple Witch, shout out to Cheye, Rini and Kelsey Kramer, shout out to Caitlin Renegarb and Hexenheim, and shout out to Megan and Willow Rose Witch. And with that I wish you a great rest of your day and Ħodt Ħodt Gwan.